everyone out there. This is Michael Weikath of Helloween, and you are watching Loud TV. Yeah, I'm getting news every day by mail or by the record company or whatever, and that's all looking amazing. Something to be very, very proud of. But I think it's also because the album is really well done. It's an amazing result, and it's even magical, right? So I mean, with the way it sounds and the collection of tracks on there, it's something to be very proud of. So it's very good if all the good reviews are coming in, and we're having interviews and promo like hell, like really a lot to do. And yeah, there's a huge interest because of all this, and it's looking extremely good. I mean, I can't watch and see and read everything, but at least I try, bit by bit. There's also the interviews of the other guys, which is very interesting and informative at times. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm actually quite busy with just checking on that and go and have something to eat and go have some private life if possible. I just found out this comeback can sound like scumbag, right? Yeah, no, I mean that's a dream come true, yes. And as I said before, it feels magic. It's just like everything is falling into place. And I don't know what else may come out of this, but I see it as like a very positive thing. And I think the most important thing about it is it's probably also being helped by some higher realm, right? I mean, I don't know. It's just that the way it feels and amazing. Amazing. I don't know how to express it, It's just like we are the seven guys. We said, okay, we're going to call ourselves just Helloween now. There's no Pumpkins United except for the tour. So it's got that name like Pumpkins United 2, but whatever, that's all been printed and put on the way, and then we said we are not really the Pumpkins United. We are the Helloween as we are right now with the seven guys. And that's another reason. We had a few ideas for the album title. Could have been Skyfall, The Impact, could have been Indestructible, Fear of the Fallen, Out for the Glory, could have been album titles. And the Sasha came up with the idea, said like, okay, we are the seven guys, and why not just with that new identity, because like we enjoy working with each other. We had an amazing time ever since the beginning we started, and that wasn't to be expected. So just in order to honor this as well and step out and say, okay, we are trying to keep going as these seven guys that we are for as long as we can, and you never know where you end up or how things are developing even more. So that's just Helloween in 2021. So nowadays we don't even know how things happened back then in the past. It's been vicious cycles because of this and that, contracts and whatever and perception. And also there was a lot of touring stress, right? And at that point, we were not so sure into which direction that would go, or how was the belief of the record company boss, or into which direction he wanted to steer the whole thing. After all, he was the one who made like that huge offer to Kai Hansen for his Gamma Ray band, right? And he had some contracts of which I heard from people they've never seen any good contracts as that to that point for comparable personality or person or band that there was. And so, I mean, I consider that like a huge betrayal of the record company boss back then. And then what you make out of this, right? And then, there were so many tidbits and details, that you came to worry about, or you didn't know how to deal with, or what to do about it, right? And so that was all a very mixing up scheme of things. Nowadays we have this what we have right here, and after all, it's pretty great. We cannot explain to ourselves how exactly all that happened. And I mean, the Michael Kiske and me, we were best friends back then. We were doing jokes, playing with words, whatever. We were doing crazy stuff. We had a good time. And suddenly, the sky went gray and dark, and something happened, and we didn't know how to handle it. It's like this, the drums were recorded on 24-track tape, as it was, and for that we needed to make connections to the modern studio equipment that was there, and the computer system that Charlie Bauerfeind and Dennis Ward are working on. And so we had to find an old specialist who would take care of these environments in that studio. It's the same studio where we recorded other records like the Master of the Rings and stuff. The studio has been renamed from the Chateau du Pape into the home studio. And we put the original Ingo Schwichtenberg drum set into that spot where he was with another drum set of his. And the Danny played it onto 24-track analog tape. Then the rest of the production went the regular way on Pro Tools system and stuff. But then all the data was sent to the Valhalla studio in New York City for the Ronald Prent. And he transferred everything into analog yet again. All the signals there went through analog mixer and effects and everything. And then it was mastered and mixed in that studio onto digital yet again in order so you can hear it, but in like high resolution audio. And then that's possibly the best way you can go. And it sounds warm, round, analog, everything. And we used old effects from that time. Naturally, you have so many other high resolution effects inside the Pro Tools system, but wherever it was possible, we even used that Eventide multiprocessor for almost all the signals that were there. Whether you use it for a guitar or for vocals or for anything else, it was used many times. Yeah, will be accessible on the streaming services and Apple Music and whatever there is, or you can get yourself a CD, or you get like lots of vinyl editions. And I would imagine that it's sounding best on like a record player with a needle and like a stereo amp, maybe preferably a tube amp or something that would be the best possible output. Or if you have like another, super great equipment or whatever, that's a different thing than playing it on an MP3 player and a low resolution, right? That's clear. But I think right from the signals and the quality of the recording and the final mix, there's everything there. If you want to blow it up real big on your stereo or your super great headphones, I think that's going to be a feast, for the senses. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot too. Yes. Kind of as usual, and we were doing the work quite separate in the end. Finally, it's like the Kai Hansen was sitting with somebody in the studio in Hamburg. The Sasha, he was recording with Charlie Bauerfeind in a German studio in the south of Germany, and then the data was saved on Charlie's system, and then he came here to this island where we did our guitar parts together. So there was no recording things together in the studio as such, but we had the pre-production period in Hamburg in that home studio for like almost 2 months, and where we were editing and we were working out details, arrangements, harmonies, tempos, and beats and grooves and stuff, right? And harmonies and tuning of tracks until we were satisfied, and we had like a scratch version of what would be the final production. And then he started doing the drums on it. Then next, the guitars would follow. And we always record the bass after the guitars are finished, because like there may be tuning irregularities we found out, and it's very hard to alleviate that afterwards when it happens. So we always use we always record the bass after the guitars. Yeah. And everybody knows like the advantages that everyone has and the shortcomings. So we all have a great deal of knowledge of each other, to say, right? And so you can also have your expectations, right? And when that someone then comes around and fulfills your expectations, you know, that's making you proud of him, of yourself, or whatever. And then that's just the way it goes, right? And you try to, yeah, you know, make efforts together of which, you know, kind of the other guy will do it kind of like this, and then when it happens, you're extra happy, right? And that happened many times, and I can tell you, so many things can actually go wrong if on one day you don't have really the inspiration or whatever. You can F it all up. You can, like, you know, bring across a lot of bullshit, or you can go like, oh, I simply have no idea for this part, you know. And that's you know, you're prone to so many bits in a production like that where so much can go wrong. But actually it's all been led to fruition, you know, by the Dennis Ward and the Charlie Baufein and the Ronald Trent, and it's an amazing piece of work. If I were a producer, I would rather run away. You know, if someone came saying like, hey, we're the seven guys, you know us so well, you know, and now we want to do a new record after all that time with so many tracks, I would have gone like, yeah, I take some vacation, you know, maybe ask this producer. We were presented three artists who came up with like a scratch idea of what the cover could be, and the Kantor, he was selected at an instant. Then he decided to do that landscape cover because so many more ideas were pouring in. It was like, okay, we have the keeper and the clock. Now we would like to have the horn blower of the Voice of Jericho. We need the 7 magic rings. We need the 7 keys and this and that. So he said, I'm going to do a landscape cover, you know, for like special editions or whatever. So everything would fit on there. And like the Flying Bee spaceship from the Skyfall is also there prominently. Enough space to fit everything in, and a nice thing to look at probably then when you have it in high resolution or whatever, because that's getting a little bit lost on the way with the little CDs that are like 12 times 12 centimeters. There's not so much you can look at. And so with the earbooks of Nuclear Blast and stuff, you have like a large thing that you can look at, you know, you can study all the details, you can dream a little bit, you know. That's stuff that we liked in the past when there was only vinyl albums, and you were listening to your new record that you bought at a store somewhere or had delivered, and then you opened it up, you read all the lyrics, you took a look at all the little details and the artwork, you know. So that's provided, at least if one is inclined to get any of these things, right? Yeah.
Do you remember your first vinyl bought in
Yes,
the shop? What is it?
it was the Double Red album of the Beatles when I was 12. So I went to some store, and I've always seen those things. I was quite a Beatles fan because I knew the Beatles from the radio. They were the most famous band ever. And when I was 12, I had a little bit of money from my pocket money over the months. And I was like, we have a record player at home. We have a very good stereo system. I've been listening to whatever stuff that came on the radio ever since I could think. And then with 12, I decided I got to get into the Beatles now. I want to hear the original songs as many times as I like. And there was so much stuff that I knew from before that I didn't even know it was them. So like yet another week later, I went and asked my mom, like if she could give me some extra money because I also wanted to get the blue double Beatles one. And afterwards, I went into finding out what are the titles of all the separate Beatles albums, in fact. And by the time it was difficult, you would have to have it in a catalog of like a record order service or any kind of store. There was no internet. I couldn't type like a search on the internet, like tell me all the Beatles albums titles or whatever. That wasn't possible. You had to ask somebody who knew, right? So when we went to England with my dad and my mom, there was like a business guy, like a pal of my dad. And I would actually go there and ask him, do you know all the Beatles albums? Because I want to buy them. Can you write me a list? So he took a ink pen and he put it on his business card. He wrote all the album titles with a dot after each time. Magical Mystery Tour, dot. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, dot. Right? And that card I kept, and then I went to the record store and I spent a great deal of money to have these records finally. That's also when I started learning guitar, when I got like an acoustic concert guitar for Christmas. And I was told I got to take on guitar lessons, otherwise the guitar would stand in the corner and I wouldn't do anything with it. But the thing is, I always had those ideas for melodies and I didn't know what else to do with it. So I needed an instrument to to present it to myself or to record maybe on a cassette tape. I mean, I had a cassette recorder. And so in order to try these melodies that I had in my head, I didn't know what else to do with it. I couldn't write it down or something. So I needed some instrument to, accompany the melody and work it out. And this is how things took shape, right? After a few years of doing that, self-taught and whatever, again, there was no video of how to play like Eddie Van Halen or something. You had to do that by listening to and by trying and by finding out.